Right, we move on now to chapter 25, or Al-Furqan. Al-Furqan, again, it leaves the hard tone, which I mentioned for chapter 24, An-Nur, and it goes back to the rather dialogue-y kind of tone which the previous chapters to An-Nur had. It starts with تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. Blessed is he who sent down Al-Furqan on his servant. So Al-Furqan here, I mean, the Quran is mentioned as Al-Furqan, but in a general meaning, Al-Furqan is the ability to tell, to separate, in this case the implication is between right and wrong, as verses 2, which talks about he to who belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and no son has he begotten, nor has he a partner in his dominion. So you can tell the difference, and that is Al-Furqan. The Quran does feature a lot in this chapter, but again in an applicational sense. It's almost like chapter 17. And this chapter also has, I think, 5 or 6 occurrences of the word Rahman. I'm not especially I'm not especially focusing on the word Rahman, but as I was doing this research, it came up. And it does contribute to the overall theme of the chapter as well. We proceed to verse 4, which says, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا إِفْكٌ أَفْتَرَهُ. So the concealers, they say, this is nothing but a lie which he has created, and others have helped him do it. So verily this is, verily this is an oppressive statement which they have conceived. So, and they say, tales of the ancients which he has written, and they are dictated before him morning and evening. So once again, it's like the unbelievers are saying, well, no, this is just an outright lie, and this is the origin is not from God. So the Quran responds to this by saying, "Kul anzalnahu alladhi ya'lamu sirra fi as-samawati wal ard innahu kana ghafurur rahim." This, and he doesn't say the Quran here, so it's talking about it can include the Quran certainly, but it's talking about revelation now. Revelation is something which will give you a glimpse at the secrets in the heavens and the earth. So this is something which you experience in the utmost meaning level of the Quran. So it then continues with the dialogue between those who disbelieve and those who believe, and it comes to Judgment Day, where it says, for those who reject the path, they say, I wish I'd taken a path with the Rasul, and woe is me, I wish I'd never taken so and so as a friend. Obviously he's talking about Shaitan. So he did lead me astray from a dhikr. So once again, the Quran is described as a dhikr. It's something which is eminent. It is memorized and kept. And the messenger's response to this is وَقَالَ Rasul, and the messenger says, يَا رَبِّي إِنَّا قَوْمِي أَتَّخِذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. So, O my Lord, my people have taken this Quran, this whole Quran, as something to be abandoned. So the Quran is trying to remind us here that the messenger's role is centered around the Quran, and yet those who stood with the messenger unfortunately abandoned the Quran. And the Quran continues in verse 31. It says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ. So verily we've made for every prophet enemies. Now this will take us back to chapter 6 verses 112 to 115, which talks about the enemies of every prophet who conjure up Zukhruf al-Qawl. Zukhruf al-Qawl are sayings which inspire some kind of beauty, yet they have no reality behind them. And the solution for this, as 6114 tells us, is to focus on Al-Kitab Mufassal, the book which is explained in detail or descended in detail. Verse 32 to 33, again it goes back to those who disbelieve. They say, why is the Quran not descended to him all at once? Well, this is talking again because it's saying Al-Quran here, it's talking about the meaning. So the meaning of the Quran is not descended all at once, because Allah says, كَذَلِكَ لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَرَتَّلْنَهُ تَرْتِيلًا. We strengthen with it his mind. So the strengthening of the mind is related with the Quran. And it's Allah who رَتَّلْنَهُ تَرْتِيلًا means Allah brings together the arranged similarities. So if you track down the similarities in the Quran, you will inshallah see an exposition of the meanings. Then it talks about Musa and the book from verse 35 to 36. Musa and the book is something which is intimately mentioned with the Quran. And the reason for this is that the story of Musa shows the application aspects of the Quran. And by mentioning Musa in the book, we see that the book of Musa is actually quite related to the dynamics of the Quran itself. Verse 37 to 38, it talks about Nuh and other prophets, again reminding us back to the first verse, which talks about the descent of Al-Furqan ala Abdullah, on the servant of Allah. So we can see how the Quran is used to determine, to sift between the bad and the good. Very interestingly here as well, in verses 43 to 44, it talks about those who take for his God hawahahu, his delusions. So a hawa is something which is contrasted with following the book. So instead of following reality, you follow your constructed reality. So Allah says, can you be a wakil for him? Or a disposer of his affairs? You can't. See, most of them, they have shut themselves off, and they are like cattle, but further astray. Right, so then we're coming to the end of the chapter now. In verse 63 onwards, it talks about Ibadur Rahman, or the servants of Ar-Rahman. So again, this chapter focuses on Ar-Rahman. Just like chapter 19, which has 5 or 6 occurrences of Ar-Rahman, this chapter also has quite a few occurrences. And it says that Ibadur Rahman are those who walk on the earth in humility, and when Al-Jahilun, or the superficial ones, address them, Khatabahum, Qalu Salama, their speech is that which is peaceful and conciliatory. And these are the people who establish the night in sujood and qiyam. So they are constantly establishing that state of submission to Allah and establishing God's laws. And they when they spend, they are not extravagant or niggardly, or in other words, they don't overspend or underspend. They hold a just balance. So here we can see that people who have the Furqan, they are acting in a certain way. So this is what this chapter is about, really. This chapter is about those who have that. Some people may even call it conscience, but Al-Furqan, the ability to tell between right and wrong, this is also related to the Quran itself. It's indeed part of this. If we go back to verse, let's see, 30. It's actually 33. It says, and nothing that you bring them by way of analogy, except we bring something with truth and better as an exposition. So the Quran is something which is constantly being expounded upon. It can constantly encircle the meanings which we experience in our lives. And how do we do this? By using it as Al-Furqan. We must use it to tell the difference between right and wrong. So I think that's the purpose of this chapter. And with that, we close the presentation on chapters 24 and 25. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll be doing the Tasin chapters, which is Ash-Shu'ara chapter 26, An-Naml chapter 27, and Al-Qasas chapter 28. Thank you very much for your continued viewership. Bye.